All right, folks. Well, I'm getting ready to close out the day. I'm pretty happy because the ground is drying up around my mower. Woohoo! I'm so happy to get this thing done. But anyways, in the meantime, I have accepted a new job, and that's the 2004 Nissan Altima. And if you watched, you saw a few videos explaining things like the spark plugs and the coils on the 3.5. And then also I'm doing a full brake job, which is all new rotors and brakes all the way around. It's a job I'm very familiar with. Now the brakes on this one are definitely gone, and we can get it done cheap enough. We're just gonna go ahead and change out the rotors. Another thing that was requested was that I just kind of take a peek and see if there's anything else that needs to be worked on. Now at 80,000 miles, we did talk about how the spark plugs and the coil on the coil on distributor system works. These are individual coils that sit on top of each spark plug. You've got 3 up front, and then you've got 3 in the back here. And in order to do a simple tune-up, you do have to remove the upper intake and replace the gasket and all that other stuff. So I've always recommended on the 3.5 somewhere in between 80 to 120,000 miles, you want to think about changing this stuff out. If you don't, then what you will end up with sooner or later is a misfire code, and one of these coils will start failing on you. Now, you should only really have to change these spark plugs and coils out every 80 to 100,000 miles or so. So that's kind of the benefit in that right there. So there's that. That's just something to think about. That's not a dire need or anything right now, but at around 100,000 miles, you might want to start thinking about that. Now, the other thing that I found that is common on these Nissan 3.5s is the lower oil pan gasket, and I'll show it to you here. All right, if you notice, you got a dry area on the oil pan, but you got oil dripping here, and I mean that's probably just from somebody changing it out or not tightening it up. But you've also got some discoloration up front. Now again, this is not what I would consider a dire need, but the fact that it is a little wet here and it is oil, it's doing what I call seeping. It's just begin to seep out of the lower gasket. And so I've seen them where they've just leaked and leaked and leaked. And so sooner or later, someone might want to go ahead and lower that oil pan and change that gasket out, which in order to do so means you got to change the oil and all that stuff. So honestly, I'd normally advise people to wait until your next oil change or something like that. So possible spark plug and coil tune-up, possible oil pan gasket. Now the main drive belt is also cracked and starting to show signs of wear and tear, so that's definitely going to get worse over the summer as the heat comes. So I would probably say from possible to minor, definitely want to be thinking about that over the course of the next month or so, especially before the heat of the summer comes up. We'd hate to have to replace that, 3-4 months from now when it's 110 degrees out. So, and I hope the camera can is catching those cracks right there. And then the biggest thing that I found, so we went from possible services to minor services. Now let's look at what really should be addressed here pretty quick. And that's going to be, if you can see up in here where it's all wet, if you can see that reddish fluid dripping, this part right here is your power steering pump. So I would recommend a diagnosis. Now, a diagnosis to figure out where this power steering pump is leaking from consists of buying ultraviolet dye and then using a ultraviolet light to pinpoint, after you cleaned everything off, to go ahead and pinpoint where the leak's coming from. The leak could very well, sorry for the lighting there, possibly be coming from where you see this hose connecting into there. You see those 2 bolts? So you pull that out and there's an O-ring inside of there. It could be coming from there. It could be coming from behind the pulley. So it's definitely, I would say it might be time to address that and then address possibly replacing the power steering pump, or at the least removing it and replacing some O-rings and getting it to stop leaking. So, oh boy, man, I used to be able, when I was in my 20s, do this for 16 hours a day. Well, I tell you, nowadays it's a little different. So, possible tune-up, but that can wait until later. Possible oil pan, gasket, but that too can wait until later. And the most dire thing to address right now would be the power steering pump. And as you can already tell, you have to get to it from underneath, and that can be kind of not fun to get to. So definitely want to address that power steering pump leak. So there you go, folks. Just doing an inspection for my customers, friends, new friends. You know, I'm really just doing this out of my home, taking care of the 4 kids. So if you become a customer, you become a family friend here. So that's that, and that's some common problems on the Nissan 3.5. This is a beautiful engine, runs great. All the car really needs right this second is a brake job and possibly that power steering leak figured out. And other than that, this car is in great shape. I really do like the Nissan 3.5. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. This is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, signing off.